Okay, so now we are going to get into a technical aspect of choosing a peer to whom you will respond and how to do the initial setup of your response that you'll be working on. So the pathway, as you can see, it says click on submit your results. In the online version of this task, it might say submit your comparative and question paragraphs or submit your comparative paragraphs and question paragraph. In any case, it's going to be task 3C, and that's the link that takes you to all of the peer threads. The link takes you to what I call a dialectic board, but what most all others call a discussion board. So you should have read this by now, and you should have read at least 5 peer responses. As you're deciding which peer response you want to work with, think about the instructions and the content expectations I already went over, and think about what would be who offers you some really good material, some really good content for you to do well on this task, okay? So be careful. If an argument is really concise and the student didn't say much, you might not have that much to work with. And this is where the saying, the early bird catches the worm, comes in, because the sooner that students start on this particular kind of task, the more availability there is in terms of to whom they will respond. Because as students begin to do the comparative analysis, the choices you have in terms of whom you can respond to and hence the content you're going to work with diminishes. So why is that? That's because I do not want any one of you to get more than one response. And I do not want you to do more than one response. So also, I didn't emphasize that earlier, but if you look at the instructions, I don't tell you to respond to 2 peers. Throughout all of the instructions, I'm talking about a single peer, that you're going to respond to a peer, that you're going to compare and contrast your argument with a peer argument. I never say your peers' arguments. I always use the singular version, but I have to make sure you know that, because occasionally I'll have students who, again, and let's think about what we learned about Hume in the section on epistemology. I have students who assume that their past experiences will be true for them in the future, right? So thinking about, using the principle of induction, if you will, they think that because maybe in the past, when they got into a discussion board setting, they've had to respond to at least 2 or more peers, that the past will resemble the present or the future. And you're only going to be responding to 1 peer, and then again, making sure we're thinking about, how the principle of, the past, the present, or the future always resembles the past doesn't always come into play. We can't always count on our prior experience. I have very different expectations, and that's why I really don't like to call this a discussion board, because it's not a typical discussion board, and it's not even really a discussion board in the traditional sense. So that's why it's so important to follow all of the videos and all of the written instructions, because you're doing something called comparative analysis in the context of, a platform called discussion board. So that said, I'm going to show you visually how to do this part right here and steps 1 and 2, and I'm going to add some missing requirements to the assignment. So stay tuned, take good notes. I might have to do this video in 2 videos, but I'm hoping I can get everything done in 1 video. So you're going to select a peer who has yet to get a response of any kind. The peer you choose cannot be the same person who replies to your thread. Check to make sure that whomever you choose has not already responded to you first. So if you see that Jan, for example, imagine you see Jill responded to your thread, you cannot in turn respond to her thread to get this task done. You will have to find another peer, anyone but Jill. You post your analysis by clicking on reply from within your peer's thread. Now that said, do not post your response until you have also done task 3B. So task 3A is focused on constructing 2 paragraphs where you're doing objective analysis, where you're discussing a similarity and a difference in the reasoning that you each provided for your respective conclusions. In the last paragraph, or in the question paragraph, you are going to use a task 3B lesson. So I want this all submitted as one. Don't reply to your peer with just the comparative paragraphs for task 3A and then your question paragraph for task 3B. I would like all of the paragraphs, all of the content, all in one reply to your peer thread. So just keep that in mind. You have to get through the task 3B expectations and paragraph before you submit any paragraphs at all. If you don't have time to type an immediate response, you can claim a peer by typing this. So just copy and paste this or type it exactly, not just claimed, but the instructions to remind your peer of what to do. They might have forgotten about the information on this page or in this video. Just type, retype, or copy and paste claimed. Please find another peer to whom you will respond. That way you don't feel like you have to rush to get your comparative paragraphs done. You don't have to rush to get your question paragraph done, and no one else can pick your whom you've claimed. If I see that if I see that you responded to a student and somebody else had already claimed that peer, then you will get at best half credit for this assignment. So make sure that when you are looking at your peer and you think that's a peer to whom you would like to respond, scroll all the way up and down that peer's thread page and make sure that no other peer has already claimed or responded to your peer. So that's very important. Now, if you find that 2 people have responded to your thread, it's no big deal. Keep in mind that all you're doing in this task 3 of unit 3, all you're doing is the comparative paragraphs and the question paragraph. You're telling a peer how your views compare and contrast, or how they're alike and different, and you're generating question. But no one is answering a question. And by the way, when you get to task 3B and you learn how to set up your question paragraph, make sure that you yourself do not answer the question for your peer, right? So when you generate that question for task 3B, you let your peer answer the question. You don't start to give an answer to that question that you're giving your peer. Okay, you'll learn more about that in task 3B. But anyway, I think that this is something I came up with about 6 months ago, and I did that to make sure that students had time to work through their paragraphs and post them without worrying about another student posting a response before they did. Okay, so I'm going to show you how to do that. So let's go ahead and focus on that then. So what you will do is you will go to task 3C right here. You click on it, and let's just say, well, and notice the threads. Your thread has your name on it, right? And then the author is me. All that means is that I created the thread for you. So let's say I'm Abigail, and I, Abigail, have decided that I want to respond to Anushka's argument. So then what you do is, then what I, Abigail, do is I go to Anushka's thread. So your submission for this assignment, you don't post it in your own thread, you post it in the thread of your peer. So then I, as Abigail, will go to Anushka's thread, right? Well, actually, before I do that, I need to get my own response. So then I, as Abigail, I'm going to click on my thread, and then I'm going to copy my response. Then I go to Anushka's thread, and then you're going to click on reply. Below that, you're going to be able to paste your response. And by the way, look at all the editing functions here. If you don't see all of these editing functions, remember that you just click on the 3 dots right here. So now I need to post my response, keep formatting. Make sure you click on keep formatting, because you were supposed to highlight keywords you pulled from a definition for free will into the argument to make it easier for your peer to see how you did that. If you did not do that in your original argument, you cannot now do that. So don't do that. So you have to use what you actually did. So don't change it, because then you could lose a lot of points for doing that. So that's another thing, is you cannot change your argument for this activity, for this assignment. The point is to see, what did you think at a given point in time? What did you argue at a given point in time? But don't change anything, okay? So, I mean, at best, you'll get some kind of deduction. If not, maybe you'll just get like an automatic 10 or 25 for the assignment, because the whole point is to see what you wrote and thought in the past, what you produced in the past, what your peer produced in the past. But also, I don't want you to go highlighting stuff that you didn't highlight, that you shouldn't have highlighted, because you have to work with what you actually submitted. Okay, so let's say I'm Abigail, so I've got that. Now I also have to copy and paste Anushka's, my peer response. Okay, so now I can't remember what I said in terms of order. So did I have an order? Whose responses did I want when? I said, select a peer. Okay, you post your analysis. Okay, so now we are getting into this part right here. We're going to create a salutation in a minute. Let's skip to step 2. Copy and paste your original response to the text box you get to when clicking on your peer thread. Copy and paste your peer's original response below yours. So then keep formatting. Okay, so far I'm following directions. So this is me, Abigail, as Abigail, and this is my peer, Anushka. This is his response. That's where I'm going to post his. If your peer provided the URL, where they were supposed to for their specific argument for that specific word, then be sure to include it. Some people only gave me the dictionary. If that's all they gave you, fine. Some students didn't provide any of that. So just, in other words, copy and paste everything. If they have a URL, dictionaries, whatever, links, that's what you include. Okay, so I've got that part right there. I've got step 2 down, right? But it also says, tell me who is speaking when. So now I've got to do that part. So what you can say is, because remember you're using I, you, we, our, so then I'm going to put I said, so you could do something like that. I stated, I wrote, and then I'm going to unitalicize this. I'm trying to unitalicize it. Let's see if it'll let me. It's not letting me. I might go back and try in a minute. If you can, please unitalicize that. Well, you know what? Actually, I'm going to do a trick. Let's see if this trick works. Okay, I'm going to show you another trick. If you get stuck like that, I just copy and paste font that is the way I want it. Okay, did you see that trick I just used? It wouldn't italicize for me, but I just copied and pasted the text formatted the way I wanted. And then I just wrote to the right of that, and then I just scoot. Then I deleted what I didn't want, and then look, a trick. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is this, in case I have the same issue with italicizing here. Oh, that didn't work, so maybe I should have put it here. Okay, so now here I'm going to change this to you said. Now I want this part italicized. So you were supposed to italicize the first sentence in your argument to make your conclusion stand out even more. If you did not, do not do that. Just leave things as they are. I'm just reminding you guys of that at this point. All right, so this is step 2. So now let's go back to the assignment instructions for step 1. Create a salutation, greet your peer by his or her name. You are directly addressing your peer, but of course, remember, you got to keep it professional, academic, but it is in first person. So I might say, hi, hello, greetings, nice to meet you, Anushka. Okay. Okay, and then here, okay, so I'm gonna just put missing requirement. Here, what I want you to do is some kind of sentence that introduces me or your peer to what it is you're going to copy and paste below. So you just come out and say below I include, or below you will see, or below I have included. So what I want you to do then is a sentence or two that gives me context. When did you guys create these arguments? What unit? What task? Do you remember what the topic, the prompt, or the scenario is? Can you give a little bit of context in terms of like, why do these paragraphs even exist in the first place? Now, I don't want you to argue about free will. I don't want you to start analyzing your responses yet. You're just constructing 1 or 2 sentences that remind the peer of what was the context for these arguments. Why are they here? How did they come to be with respect to this class in an earlier assignment, context, and whatever you can remember. So that's going to add some nice coherence. It's going to make this flow better in terms of a form of communication. So then you have this part. So then you've got those couple sentences there, right? So I would say you need at least 1. Be precise, be exact. I love detail. But then that said, I shouldn't have more than really a couple of sentences of context. Okay, so then, but it's not analysis, right? It's not evaluation. So then let's see the instructions. So notice how even I have to keep going back